And the bell chimes. Good morning. I'm Rosalind Hawkins, and I'll be your worship leader today. My pronouns are she, her. I think I got that right today. And as we gather today to begin our day of worship, this time together, I'm calling upon those spirits that have brought us thus far. Because of those who came before, we are, in spite of their feelings or failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of horizons of their vision, we too dream. Good morning. Now, if you will, join me as we say the words to light our chalice. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love which calls us to work for justice.
Good morning. Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Amanda Schneider. My pronouns are she, her. And I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone in whatever way you show up today. And welcome to those joining us on Zoom and via YouTube. When we say welcome here at VUU, we really mean it. That is why you will notice many of us saying our appropriate pronouns. It is a way to develop a comfort level with telling and asking, rather than just assuming and creating a truly welcoming and inclusive culture. This welcome extends to after the service, when those on Zoom will be able to stay for breakout rooms and socialize with others, and those in the sanctuary can stay for coffee and snacks. If you are new to us, please plan to join us for a brief welcome circle in near the back windows to meet some of our members and learn more about us. If we have anyone new or visiting with us today, we hope you'll give us your email at our welcome table so we can send you more information about this community and opportunities to connect with us in the future. Folks here would love to meet you and answer any questions that you have. So if you're new and it's not too uncomfortable, would you please stand or at least give us a little wave so we can greet you after the service? Welcome. And if you are new and joining us online through Zoom, please introduce yourself in the chat box. And speaking of our Zoom participants, let's extend a greeting to our online participants by waving to each other, the Zoomers, as they wave back. They'll be over in this camera there. Welcome, good morning. As we settle in for this sacred time together, Please remember to silence any noisemakers, and if you have a little noisemaker who can't be silenced, or even if you need some space, there's a comfort room to your right. There are speakers in there so you won't miss anything. Another way we support each other in our community is with our lay pastoral care team, trained associates from within our congregation who are available if you are dealing with difficulties or challenges. This Sunday, our pastoral care will be provided by Roz Hawkins here in the sanctuary and Joanne Smith on Zoom. Roz can be found up here in the front of the sanctuary after service, and you can send Joanne a direct message through the chat box if you're on Zoom. They will also be responsible for pastoral care this upcoming week, and you can contact them through pastoralcare@vuu.org, through an online form on our website, or a form that's over by our candle lighting station. We're grateful you're here. We're grateful we're together. And now let us all say, welcome.
Good morning. We are going to sing together this morning, Building a New Way. So please rise in body or spirit and join. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. Thank you. Please be seated.
Hello, everyone. If you are able and willing, please take a moment and let's center ourselves. And if you can, I invite you to close your eyes and be present in the moment. So, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. As you breathe in, the breath grows deep. As you breathe out, the breath grows slow. Breathing in makes me calm. Breathing out brings me ease. With the in-breath, I smile. And with the out-breath, I release all tension. Breathing in, I know I am alive. Breathing out, in this, I am in the present moment. Thank you.
Now more time for centering and ritual. As we sing our centering hymn, How Could Anyone Tell You? Please feel free to light a candle, put some water in the fountain, or place a stone over here on my left. We'll sing this through a couple of times, and then we'll just have Linda play while you're participating, and she'll play quietly in the background. Go ahead. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than all? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than all? How could anyone ever to notice
My experience of this process of aging has been a bit like growing and tending to a garden. Some people in my life and lessons I have learned started as seeds and have grown slowly, taking up more space and creating more beauty in my garden over time. My best friend was one of those, planted as a seed in 9th grade, and after 31 years of friendship, she stands tall and vibrant in my garden. There are also people and lessons that are transplanted, arriving already large and mature in my garden, like the lesson I learned, give thanks when thanks is due. I was a couple years out from graduating high school, and one morning I found myself reflecting back on how much my high school ceramics teacher, Mr. Collins, had impacted my life. His classroom was the only place I felt safe when I was in high school. I still remember walking into his class each morning, hearing the classic rock music playing, and seeing him hunched over the potter's wheel with his flowing gray hair, often pulled back into a ponytail while he finished off a piece of work before the bell rang. That earthy, humid smell of the clay grounded me in its welcoming warmth of safety and acceptance as I walked into his classroom each day. The back door of his room thrown open, showcasing his motorcycle parked outside the door, with the Rocky Mountains in the far distance as the backdrop. That morning of my reflection, I decided to go back and visit him at the school to thank him because I never told him how much of an impact he had on my life. Later that same afternoon, I picked up a local newspaper and read he had recently died in a motorcycle accident. I never had the chance to thank him. And just like that, a large lesson was transplanted into my garden that still stands tall today and reminds me every day, show appreciation when it's due. Other times, plants are plucked from our garden, those losses we experience, loss of life, relationships, jobs, beliefs that we once held dear. They leave gaping holes that we slowly fill over time, sometimes choosing to leave that empty space, other times replacing it with something new and nourishing. Now, every garden comes with weeds, those unwanted plants that suck the nutrients away from the vital plants that we want in our garden. Those weeds are the limiting beliefs planted early in life that continue to pop up throughout our lifetime. If we are lucky, we pluck them out early before they take hold and spread their seeds to propagate in the rest of the garden. Other times, we must yank their mature stems out forcibly, disturbing the rest of the plants around them for a time. I have pulled many weeds of self-worth, body image, needing to be liked by others, and others. I'm happy to say I am finally breathing a bit freer as fewer of these weeds pop up to suck away the joy I feel in my life. And when they do, I'm often able to recognize them and pull them before they take hold. Finally, every good garden needs fertilizer. Those experiences that fundamentally shift and change your overall perspective of life. Like that time I was sitting in this very sanctuary 12 years ago. I was new to VUU and new to Unitarian Universalism. I walked in with the dry and somewhat barren soil I received from my family of origin's belief system. My garden was managing. Plants, especially weeds, are great at growing in harsh conditions. I remember that day listening to an undocumented immigrant talk about his life and his family and why he chose to risk everything to come to the United States. How hard and scary that experience was. How he didn't feel they had any other choice to make in order to survive. Walking into the sanctuary that morning, I saw only the label of illegal alien. After listening to this man, I no longer saw a label. I saw a human being, a parent, just like me, with the same emotions and feelings that I had. Listening and seeing him unlocked a new level of compassion in me that stays with me and only grows deeper today. It was that application of fertilizer that deeply enriched the soil of my life. So now I see the world through eyes of compassion, and all of the plants in my garden are richer and more vibrant because of it. As we age, our gardens, full of those people and lessons that we've learned, change. Some seasons are rich and lush, others are sparse and barren. Some gardens are carefully culled, while others grow with wild abandon. All are beautiful in their uniqueness. Whatever stage your garden is in, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect. Sink your fingers deep into that soil. smell the earthy aliveness of it, and admire the beauty of all the plants that grow there.
Good morning, once again. I am truly privileged to be before you today. And when I volunteered to do this service, it is nothing like you see today. I think there was something completely different in mind, but there's been so much that happened. And as I wrote, the emotions were pretty raw. And so I'm going to give you something a little bit different than originally planned. But I hope you can take it in and take it to heart. Because today I share a part of my story as I share the stage with my son. It's a unique privilege to be able to see the fruits of your labor and be able to share a space and time. At the beginning of this month, we celebrated a day of remembrance, honoring those in the past that have left a lasting impression and may have influenced who we are today. As valuable as those memories are, it is also invaluable to assess what we learn in each phase of our lives. It is usually only with age that we can truly appreciate the wisdom of our ancestors, but it is through experiences in our own lives and our reactions to them that we grow into the person that defines each of us as individuals. As Amanda's reflection stated, the garden of our lives has to be nurtured from seed to weed to harvest, with each stage requiring special attention. Memory, however, is a tenuous thing. According to Dr. Rick Gilmore, Associate Professor of Psychology at Penn State, sometimes it seems like children remember things adults do not. But in fact, adults have better memory, if by memory we mean the ability to remember more information more accurately and for longer periods of time. He continues, scientists actually divide up memory into different types, depending on what is remembered and for how long. Memories for skills, like riding a bike, differ from those associated with facts, like who's the president? The brain appears to store these types of memories in different ways and probably in different circuits, unquote. In other words, our memories are influenced by circumstances. Adults retain information in a context, and generally, young children do not. With that said, I was privileged to know several of my great-grandparents who all died in my adolescence, and my grandparents who I lost in my 30s. They were my elders and never to be questioned or disrespected in any way without severe consequences. And I mean severe. While my great-grandparents were kind to us, they were definitely stricter and not as friendly as my grandparents. I'm sure they imparted words of wisdom, but I cannot tell you what they were. My father's grandmother, Grandma Stella, gave us sin-sins in church to keep us quiet, and her favorite color was emerald green. Sin-sins, by the way, are a charcoal-flavored melt in your mouth mint that was extremely distasteful, but it was her substitute for peppermints to keep our breath fresh. Her husband, Daddy Steve, was a very sullen man who ran the laundromat below their apartment. My biological great-grandfather, Daddy Alvy lived in Memphis and came to visit during summers. He always seemed to be happy, wore suits with a hat, and he built a doghouse for our first puppy. My mother's grandfather, Daddy Benny, seemed like a giant at over 6 feet tall. Every year we had to sit on the ottoman in front of the big chair where he sat and report our grades. He would listen intently, and then he gave you a silver dollar if you had done well in school. So it was kind of worth the torture. While these may seem like random memories, their presence in my life still left a deep impression. My experience and my memory of my grandparents are more intimate, as they were more involved in our care. From my earliest memories, we spent some part of most weekends with my maternal grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa Malone. You'll see some name themes as we go through this. Grandma was a large, soft-spoken woman who cooked for the masses. She opened her home to everyone, so I never knew who was family or friend. I assumed that everybody who walked through the door was related. Grandpa Malone was the proverbial doting grandpa. He sang, told jokes, and assured that we had candy. My paternal grandmother, we call Nine, that's a story in itself, lived with us and our parents, and she was also a constant caregiver. The impact of each of them on my life didn't really hit me until I lost each one of them. So many questions left unanswered. In 2007, my mother passed. She was 74, and it seemed so sudden. My heart broke, and I felt such a need to protect my adult children from the pain of her loss. My pain was so profound, I don't know that I was able to shield theirs. She had joined other ancestors. So many questions left unanswered. Now, faced with only the memories, it made me think, what am I leaving my children and grandchildren? I do have 3 incredible and industrious children. My daughter Janan, the oldest, was born to care for others, and she started with her younger brothers welcoming each as they came into the world. She stood vigil at her brother's crib, announcing loud and swiftly that he needed to be fed or changed, always willing to rock him, although they were only 13 months apart. Instinctively, she seemed to be a surrogate mother. When her younger brother was born 5 years later, her instinct was still strong, and she cried when her dad handed the baby to his mother, who had come to California from St. Louis to help. When I asked her why she was so upset, she stated that, "Daddy gave Grandma my baby." While my husband didn't understand, I knew her love and commitment to the new baby was strong. At 40, she became a mother for the first time and now understands the demands of actual parenting. My oldest son, Damon, was our protector. He scrutinized strangers around us and would caution against those who alerted his trust meter. Damon, my introvert, didn't like being around large groups and still has a small cadre of close friends. In spite of his personal privacy, his penchant for routine and order provided him the tools for a successful military career, retiring from the Navy after 20 years of service. The personalities they displayed as toddlers are still the core of who they are today. Janan is a CNA in the process of pursuing her RN. Damon is a safety officer for a major aircraft manufacturer. My youngest son, Jamal, who's with me today and will give you the benefit of his story, was born an old soul. He was a quiet baby that seemed to constantly take in the world around him. At 3 months, the quiet erupted into screams when he started having chronic ear infections. By 6 or 7 months, the antibiotics were becoming ineffective, and he had his first surgery for tubes in his ears at 9 months. At the tender age of 3, he claimed he picked me to be his mother. And his imaginary friend was John Wayne, who had just happened to have died that year. Somehow, he had a psychic connection to the world, and specifically to me. We nicknamed him Radar because he seemed to be able to find me in almost any circumstances. If we went to the movies, I'd put them in the Disney movie, I'd go to see my horror movie, and halfway through my movie, the door in the back would open and Radar would come through and walk directly to me as though he knew where I was supposed to be. Like many younger siblings, Jamal could be an irritant to his older sister and brother, but he, like his older brother, was extremely, extremely protective of me. In Proverbs 22, verse 6, there's a biblical quote that says, "Train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." My children seem to fit that mold until they reach the status of teenagers. At that point, I wasn't sure I had done anything right. While Jamal excelled in theater and drama classes in high school, we often speculated that he might someday become a minister. He just had a spiritual feeling about him, and everything he touched seemed to just happen just the way it was supposed to. However, he graduated with a degree in theater from DePaul University. After receiving his bachelor's, he went into a master's program, completing all coursework, but not his thesis. Somehow, for some reason, for several years, he went to a very dark place. His siblings and I worked consistently to create opportunities for him to come back to the light. But it wasn't until he sought help outside the family that he was able to turn his life around. It may sound strange, but I believe it was the spirit of our ancestors, because my mother died on his birthday, who guided him back to a place of wholeness. It is the gift of age, the ability to be still and hear the stirrings of our ancestors that stabilize our lives. It is the realization that we are not alone and share responsibility to those who've gone before us and those who are still here to make life better for the next generation. My adult children are now tasked with passing on that spirit of combining the past with the present, of holding on to the memories and putting them in context to make a better future. May it be so. And now I give you my youngest child, my son, that he may also share his story.
Good morning. My name is Jamal Brooks-Hawkins, and I use he, him, his pronouns. I want to thank my mother and you all today for allowing me to share this space and time with you, the VUU family. I may have met some of you in passing, and others I have a more familiar kinship with. In a community such as VUU, I have found that a relational greeting, which explains my presence, mirrors a cultural phenomenon that establishes me within a kinship network. For example, how did you hear about us? Is just another way to say, who your mama and them? These inquiries establish how we are connected. The response is the same. My mother is Roz, and my father is John. For many, this establishes my connection and my credibility with many of you. The familiar becomes salient through connection, affinity, and affection. Roz is the thought-provoking, loving wordsmith who serves as a worship associate, sometimes provides a listening ear, and participates in educational endeavors like Beloved Conversations. Mr. John is the quiet, strong, brilliant, funny person who fulfills the Bible verse, children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. They are John and Roz, grandparents to Jackson and Josephine. While some may label John my stepfather, he is Pop, Dad. And sometimes when I want to ask for money, please, Daddy. This is who I refer to in everyday speech when I refer to my father. No step. I'm talking about John Myers. When I talk about Mama, I'm talking about Roz Hawkins. They have been and continue to be my parents, mentors, and models of love. As Mama referenced Proverbs 22:6, it states, start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. This allows the messaging of the song, Children Will Listen. Be careful the things you do. Children will listen. Be careful the things you say. Children will hear. This is the lesson that was taught to me, to us, those who come before us, and we continue to take note of what is said and done. On November 20th, 2012, I sat on at my parents' kitchen table and had one of the hardest yet most rewarding conversations with my mother. At the time, I was in a dark place and had been for some time. The twilight conversation with my mama was about my very life. I was using drugs, couldn't hold a steady job, was constantly sick, lived in dishonesty, regret, and shame, and blamed the world for my status. I remember the date and conversation so vividly because it is exactly what was needed before I entered inpatient treatment the very next day. I disclosed to my mother that I was entering the program to be a better son, to be a better brother, to be a better person for her and for my family. However, my mother disclosed something to me that rocked me to my core. She said that she had accompanied my biological father to an anonymous program fellowship meetings in the 70s. And so I could not do this for her. I couldn't do it for anyone else. I had to do it for myself. This was not the only disclosure she made to me that night. And with each disclosure, I felt like I was making the right decision for the first time in my life. My mother named me Jamal Rashad, which is Arabic in origin and has meanings in the Muslim faith. It is not uncommon for someone to ask me if I am Muslim, to which I now reply, not in this life. This simple response acknowledges that while I do not expressly follow the teachings of Islam, I do not discount what could have been in the past and how that past impacts me today. In Arabic, Jamal means handsome, and in Muslim, it translates into beauty and grace. Rashad, in Arabic, means thinker or counselor, and in Muslim, means integrity of conduct. Taken together, I like to think that Jamal Rashad converts into converts into a beautiful thinker, a gracious counselor, or someone who seeks beauty in the integrity of conduct. This is quite a bit of pressure to live up to my name, especially if you believe in the axiom, what's in a name? However, I never felt pressure to be anything but who I am. The teachings of the Quran state that life is a process of progressive creation, necessitates that each generation, guided but unhampered by the work of its predecessors, should be permitted to solve its own problems. By the grace of my higher power and the support of my loving family, I celebrated 10 years of sobriety on November 21st, 2022. The journey has not been easy, and at times I didn't think I would make it. However, in these 10 years, I have made amends to my family for things I'd done in my addiction and helped my sister welcome 2 amazing children into this world. They know me as Uncle Jamal, someone they can trust and who will care for them, not as Uncle Jamal, the cautionary tale. I have attained 2 master's degrees, one in social work and the other in gender studies, and I'm on my way to securing my PhD. I have found a wonderful and beautiful partner whom I share a life and home with. While these are wonderful gifts, they would not be possible without the generational love that I have been shown. In The Road Less Traveled, Dr. Scott Peck says, love is as love does. Love is an act of will, namely both an intention and an action. Will also implies choice. We do not have to love, we choose to love. Therefore, love is an action, not a feeling. Peck goes on to define the concept of genuine love. Love is the will to extend oneself for spiritual growth. Genuinely loving people are, by definition, growing people. Taken together, then, love is a choice that is the will to extend oneself for the spiritual growth of oneself or another. Without my knowing it, generational love kicks into gear because who I am, how I choose to love, comes from my parents and a long line of those we are connected to. Children will listen, see, and learn. We forget that child or children has more than one meaning. Everyone is someone's child, and we are all children of the universe. So I'd like to leave you with some gifts of age I've been given. You can pick your nose, you can pick your clothes, and sometimes you can pick your family. But you can always choose who you love. The story my mother tells about me being 3 years old and informing her that I picked her is true. I remember conversing with the being that I refer to as God and selecting the person I wanted to be my mother. Lessons do not stop when you reach a certain age. They are ongoing, and everyone is always in the process of learning. This is how we continue to grow. Today, my mother and I are not the only people in our family in this pulpit. All of the people that my mother spoke to and about, including my grandmother, Josephine, is with us today. Their love flows through us like a river flows into the sea. And as the song We Are refrains, we are our grandmother's prayers, we are our grandfather's dreams. We are the breath of ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are also joined by my children's children, who have not yet arrived on this earthly plane, but here learning and teaching us. Generational love is part of genuine love because it is something that is passed down from generation to generation, and it exists in the generations to come. A gift of age is that we can look back, be present, and look forward. This love does not have to come from blood relatives, but can come from anywhere. It just so happens I can trace a genealogy of love in my biological family, as well as the family members here in VUU. Finally, as Mama points out, memory is a funny thing, and the interpretation of those memories differ based on vantage point. We do not know what impacts our actions will have, but we know that context matters. The gift of age and experience allows for the development of appreciation for what ancestors provide to us, the dreams parents instill in us, what the world has in store for us, and the desire to find balance in it all. So today, choose as you best can, genuine love. It is a gift that will last through the ages. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jim Horton. Thank you. 53 years ago, Linda and I walked into a Unitarian church in Brookfield, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee, with our 2-year-old daughter, Janet. I'd been unchurched for 12 years by then, and it came as somewhat of a surprise to me when I walked in that door to find people who were sitting around having coffee, talking about and asking questions I had asked, and having doubts that I had had. I had found a home there, and for the next 18 years, that church became our Unitarian family. That church was a hugging church, and I became a hugger there. I hugged my father, my brother, my nephews. If you need a hug, see me after the service. For the next 53 years, Lynn and I became immersed in all 3 Unitarian churches to which we have belonged. If, like Linda and me, you've been bitten by the Unitarian bug, it's now our turn to keep the flame burning. As you make your pledge this year, consider what this church home means to you and its importance to our community. The preceding testimonial has been brought to you by the Stewardship Committee. Thank you. The next person who will come to the podium is my best friend.
Now I have to cry, I guess. But VUU's 2023 Pledge Drive was officially launched last weekend with our first ever chili okie kickoff party. Now, you know, the real work begins. Our 2023 campaign goal is $450,000. That's a lofty number. But why pledge at all? Well, we wouldn't try to either build or maintain a home without a budget that tells us what we are going to be able to do. Each of us must look carefully into our own hearts and consider the shared values VUU brings to our lives and make a generous pledge to sustain this, our home. When you are ready, and we hope that is soon, you can find a path to pledging at vuu.org/pledge. Or here in the sanctuary, and you may have noticed there are pledge cards and some envelopes scattered around on the seats. Plus, there are some in the back on the shelf back there. And there is a box to put pledge cards in. The sooner we receive your pledges, the easier it will be to make our plans for the next year. Contributing actual money is the second part of this commitment. That's why we receive your offering in every Sunday service, and so that's what we're going to do now. The screen will show several ways you can make your contribution. You can even put your filled out pledge card in the offering plate if you happen to be ready to do that. So, would the ushers please come forward and pass the plates?
allowing us to share our stories today. Remember that you are beautiful as our loving is a miracle as we build a new way. We would like to leave you with this quote by Octavia Butler. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change.
We have a video for our closing, but as Jamal Rashad, the beautiful thinker, would say, please rise as the Spirit takes you, and sing along as you wish.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Before we extinguish our chalice, I said in my opening piece that my son has a psychic connection. And when I walked in this morning, he said, "Mom, you didn't answer my text." And I said, "I was getting ready." And I said, "What did you need, sweetie?" And he said, "I wanted to know what you were wearing." Well, have you noticed? He didn't need to ask. The psychic connection remains. And now, we'll close.
Please join me as we extinguish the chalice. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk paths of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again.
Go in peace, my friends. Go in peace.
About it. Do that. Doesn't look like there's very many people that stayed. Oh, Jim gone. Hi, Deanne.